Rise, mortals. It is I, your Night Queen, here to terrorize you with tales of Sabrina once more. Join me as I drag you back through the chilling adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Seasons 1 and 2. I'm Sabrina the Teenage Wit, and here's everything you need to know before you watch Season 3.
Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our super nerd sponsor of the day, Zachary Turner. Thanks to allies like them, NerdWire lives to serve the Dark Lord another day. Want to place a donation in our unholy offering platter? Check out our Patreon and see if any of the donation tiers work for you. You shall be rewarded handsomely for your support. Now let's dive into Sabrina! Season 1! In the days leading up to Sabrina Spellman's 16th birthday, she must make a choice. Live out the rest of her life with her mortal friends, or sign her name in the Book of the Beast and leave her human life behind. Sabrina is a witch, born in Greendale to a mortal mother and a warlock father. Unfortunately, they died when she was very young, so Sabrina was raised by her two witchy aunts, Hilda and Zelda, and her cousin Ambrose. Ambrose is kind of on permanent house arrest because he was tangentially a part of a plot to blow up the Vatican, but we'll circle back to that later. Of course, Sabrina is torn. She wants to follow in her father's footsteps and attend the Academy of the Unseen Arts so that she may prove her strength as a witch by dismantling the Church of Knights inequality from the inside. But she also feels bound to her loved ones. Her best friend Susie, Roz, and her boyfriend Harvey Kinkle are all mortal. You see, no one in the witching world has ever been able to have both, except her father, Edward Spellman, who was the high priest of the Church of Night when he married a mortal woman and fathered a half-mortal, half-witch child. Sabrina's aunts and school friends aren't the only ones looking out for Sabrina, however. The Dark Lord's most loyal servant, Madame Satan, has possessed the body of one of her high school teachers, Ms. Wardwell, and is tasked with making sure that Sabrina signs her name in the Book of the Beast no matter what it takes. We learn that the Dark Lord has a special plan for Sabrina, and that he's working through the deeds of his sinister followers to make sure that she sticks to it at all costs. On the night of Sabrina's dark baptism, however, she realizes that if she fully pledges herself to Satan, she won't have the free will to live her life the way that she wants to. Just as she's about to sign her name in blood and devote herself eternally to the Dark Lord, Sabrina panics and flees the woods. This deeply upsets the high priest of the Church of Night, Father Blackwood, and her aunts really aren't too pleased with her either. Aunt Zelda becomes absolutely furious with Sabrina for fleeing her dark baptism. It turns out that this is because Zelda Spellman has a dark secret. When Sabrina was only a baby, she and Sabrina's father had her secretly baptized and preemptively signed her name in the Book of the Beast. Zelda's mission has been to encourage Sabrina to make the choice to join the Church of Night on her own, to cover up her niece's secret dark baptism. But Aunt Hilda has a secret of her own. She and Sabrina's mortal mother had Sabrina baptized in a Christian church as well. To punish the Spellman family for Sabrina's breach of promise to the Dark Lord, Father Blackwood removes their powers temporarily, which rapidly ages Hilda and Zelda. In order to fight back, Sabrina hires the mortal lawyer that had studied witch law under her father during his tenure as the high priest. Edward Spellman needed a good lawyer to help him fight for his beloved Diana, and luckily for Sabrina, Daniel Webster agrees to help her. In order to beat the devil, Sabrina and Webster have to work together to prove that Sabrina truly is half-witch, and that she should be allowed to attend the Academy of the Unseen Arts part-time while keeping her ties to the mortal world. She asks her boyfriend Harvey to help her find her birthmark, aka the witch's mark, that will determine if Sabrina should be tried in court as a full witch. When Sabrina learns that she doesn't have the telltale mark, and Zelda and Hilda's secrets are revealed to the court, the judges rule that Sabrina be allowed to attend the academy a few days a week and still remain at her mortal school with her mortal friends. Even though the ruling goes Sabrina's way, it's not easy for her to balance her double life. Her mortal friends still don't know that she's a witch, and she's even forced to erase Harvey's memory after he reacts very badly to her telling him the news. Harvey and their two friends, Susie and Roz, have their own issues to deal with. Harvey's alcoholic father is trying to force him to work in the mines like his older brother before him, Susie is being harassed and assaulted by the football team at Baxter High, and Roz is steadily losing her eyesight. It doesn't help that Madame Satan is pulling the strings behind the scenes, and that Sabrina is constantly having to put out fires without letting her friends catch on to the fact that she can do magic. Over at the Academy, however, things aren't any easier. The Weird Sisters, aka Father Blackwood's unofficial orphan daughters, are hazing Sabrina. The harrowing is a centuries-old practice at the Academy, in which new students are horrifically bullied and sometimes even killed by other students. Sabrina survives the torture, but not before teaching the Weird Sisters a lesson with the ghosts of the young witches and warlocks who died during their own harrowings. But the goings-on at the Academy aren't all bad. When Sabrina and her Aunt Zelda inform the high priest that Sabrina's not being challenged enough by her classes at the academy, Father Blackwood agrees to put her in a higher level conjuring class. The catch? In order to qualify, Sabrina has to solve the Acheron configuration her father created during his time at the Academy, which no one has ever been able to solve, including Blackwood himself. With the help of a new friend named Nicholas Scratch, a high-level conjuring student, Sabrina gets a hold of her father's diaries and ends up solving the Acheron configuration. And sure, she accidentally unleashes the sleep demon Batty Bat on her entire family and has to be rescued by Madame Satan, but at least she gets to take conjuring classes now! Woohoo! Batty Bat. Batty Bat. Meanwhile, Father Blackwood has asked Aunt Zelda to be his pregnant wife's midwife for the delivery of their twin children. Because the Church of Night has a bunch of ass-backwards thoughts about how daughters are basically useless, Lady Blackwood better pop out 2 sons out of her oven if she wants them both to survive. Zelda agrees, and over time, her relationship with Father Blackwood turns sexual. Back at Baxter High, Harvey, Susie, and Roz are dealing with Susie's Uncle Jesse, who, unbeknownst to them, has been possessed ever since he crossed paths with a demon in Harvey's father's minds. But Harvey knows that something bizarre is going on. When he was a little kid, he also saw a demon down in the mines, and no one has ever believed him. Harvey thinks that whatever he saw in the mines somehow got to Uncle Jesse too, and he's not wrong. Luckily, Sabrina has the help of Ms. Wardwell and her 2 aunts to perform an unauthorized exorcism on Susie's uncle. After calling upon every Spellman witch in their ancestry, the demon evacuates Jesse's body and is shortly thereafter killed by Madame Satan. But Uncle Jesse isn't the only unusual thing going on in Greendale. Roz has started to experience the cunning, a sixth sense that gives her premonitions of potential futures. Over at the Spellman house, the family is preparing for the Feast of Feasts, which is basically the witchy version of Thanksgiving. The only difference? Instead of eating turkey and stuffing, the coven randomly selects a witch to sacrifice and devour for supper. This year, Prudence is chosen, and Sabrina spends the entire episode trying to convince her not to sacrifice herself as a meal when clearly regular food is available in Greendale. When Prudence visits Baxter High, she becomes suspicious when she learns that Harvey's last name is Kinkle. Apparently, the Kinkles come from a long line of witch hunters, so Prudence decides then and there that Harvey needs to be killed. Prudence's sidekicks, Agatha and Dorcas, decide to cause a collapse in the mine to take the Kinkle family out once and for all. Luckily, Harvey is able to escape due to a protective charm previously placed on him by Sabrina, but his older brother Tommy isn't so lucky. Tommy and several others are crushed in the mine, and Harvey is devastated. Without his brother to protect him, their abusive alcoholic father will only continue to torment Harvey, and he feels completely lost. Sabrina sees how much pain he's in and decides to try to bring Tommy back from the dead. She steals the Book of the Dead from Madame Satan and convinces Prudence to let her kill Agatha as a sacrifice so that she can resurrect her boyfriend's big brother. Sabrina slits Agatha's throat and performs the ritual with Dorcas and Prudence. After waiting the proper amount of time for the 2 souls to balance each other out, with one leaving the afterlife and the other entering it, Sabrina also brings Agatha back to life in the Spellman Lazarus pit. Unfortunately, Sabrina cheated death out of a soul, so neither Tommy nor Agatha are alright in the aftermath. Tommy is essentially just a walking zombie. He can't speak, eat, drink, or react normally. Agatha, on the other hand, is vomiting up grave dirt and continues to get sicker and sicker. When Roz uses the cunning to see what's going on with Tommy, she discovers that his soul is trapped in limbo due to Sabrina's attempted resurrection, and so is Diana Spellman. A soul eater catches Tommy during her rescue mission, and Sabrina finally has to come clean to Harvey about being a witch and bringing his brother back to life wrong. Harvey is beside himself with grief, and Sabrina is forced to gently convince him to re-kill his brother so that Tommy's soul can be set free. Understandably, the 2 of them break up with lingering feelings on both ends. Roz and Susie finally confront Sabrina about being a witch, and she tells them the whole story. While it feels good for her to come clean to her friends, there's a lot of pain and sadness associated with her witchiness, and the 2 of them and Harvey ask Sabrina for a little space to take it all in. But Roz and Susie aren't abandoning Sabrina. They're just doing their best to process this new information in a healthy way. Madame Satan is so angry that Sabrina's friends didn't ditch her after finding out who she really is, that she sacrifices a teen boy from Baxter High to summon the Greendale 13. The Greendale 13 are a coven of witches who were hanged in Greendale centuries ago, and their spirits are still furious about the way they were persecuted and murdered. The spirits of the 13 decide to summon the Red Angel of Death to help them kill every firstborn in Greendale, and it's up to Sabrina, her family, and her allies at the Academy to protect the town. Madame Satan, meanwhile, seizes the opportunity to convince Sabrina once and for all to sign her name in the Book of the Beast. Sabrina agrees to pledge herself to the Dark Lord so that he'll bestow her with stronger powers in order to save the town. With the assistance of the spirit of Susie's great aunt Dorothea and Roz's cunning, the Red Angel of Death is defeated and the Greendale 13 lose their battle. But while all of this is going down, Lady Blackwood dies giving birth to twins, a boy and a girl. In order to save the girl baby, Zelda lies to Father Blackwood, tells him that the boy twin absorbed and killed his brother, and takes baby Letitia home to raise herself. How exactly is Zelda gonna keep a baby hidden from Father Blackwood? Will things ever go back to normal between Sabrina, Harvey, Roz, and Susie? What's going on now with Ms. Wardwell now that she successfully manipulated Sabrina into signing the Book of the Beast? Luckily, some of these questions got answered in the Yule special, A Midwinter's Tale. Kidnapped baby Letitia is blissfully enjoying her first holiday with the Spellmans, and Zelda tells the rest of the family that she'll just say that Letitia is a long-lost relative sent to her to raise. But as fun as the Yuletide can be with a kid around the house, it can also be very dangerous. The winter solstice is the longest night of the year, and the veil between the mortal and supernatural worlds is the thinnest. To ward off unfriendly spirits, Zelda lights the Yule log to keep malevolent forces at bay. But because Sabrina is Sabrina, she decides to test her fate and hold a seance with the Weird Sisters to talk to her dead mother in limbo. Ms. Wardwell does not want this to happen, so she extinguishes the Yule log as soon as Diana Spellman's spirit is summoned. A mischievous band of ghost dead children called the Yule Lads break into the house and start wreaking havoc, and the only way to get them out of the house is to ask a witch named Gryla to call them away. Gryla has a pretty messed up backstory. During the famine, she and another witch agreed to eat their children to stay alive. But after cooking and eating Gryla's child, the other witch backed out of the deal. Gryla has spent the last 1,000 years adding to her growing collection of ghost kids, and now they're all up in the Spellman house. Unfortunately, baby Letitia starts crying, and Gryla tells the Spellmans that she'll only call her Yule Lads away if they give her the baby. Diana's spirit appears once more and tells Zelda and Gryla to basically have a tug-of-war with Letitia's body to see who gets to keep her. Luckily, Zelda can't go through with it, and they decide instead to trick Gryla into leaving with a glamour-covered teddy bear. Over in B-Plot Town, Susie has a new mall job as Santa's assistant, because for some reason she's always wanted to let a bunch of sticky kids crawl all over a fat guy. But when Mr. Bartell kidnaps her one night, it becomes very clear that he's not jolly old Saint Nick, but rather a Yule demon who has been covering children in candle wax and stealing their souls. He turns them into these weird little It's a Small World doll people, and it's terrifying. But luckily for Susie, her best friend is a witch. The Spellmans summon Gryla again, and she uses her Yule Lads to take Bartell down. They use his body to light a candle for their own holiday celebration, which is an extremely metal way to spend Christmas. Season 2 kicks off with Sabrina deciding to become a full-time witch at the Academy of the Unseen Arts instead of going back to Baxter High with her mortal friends. Things are still really weird between her and her friends, so she decides to give them some space and focus on her life post-dark baptism. Once again, because Sabrina hates following the rules, she starts off the new semester by demanding an opportunity to compete to be Father Blackwood's top boy. The only problem is that women aren't allowed to run for top boy, so Sabrina says F the patriarchy and starts running against Nick Scratch for the position. Father Blackwood immediately hates this, so he creates a series of challenges for Sabrina to rise to. And she totally would have had time to study if 3 demon plague kings hadn't interrupted her. In order to figure out who sent these demons after her, she and Nick blow their last competition off and choose to conjure them in front of the entire Church of Night. The demons reveal that they weren't sent by anyone, but were attacking Sabrina to prevent her from ascending. But before she can figure out what ascending means, Father Blackwood banishes the demons. I gotta say though, for a guy so high and mighty, he sure makes dumb mistakes. He basically tells Zelda that their relationship can't be official until the proper mourning time for his dead wife is over, so Zelda calmly tells him that he won't be getting his penis touched by her until they're actually dating. Back at Baxter High, Susie has had huge personal growth with her gender identity and begins living as a man. He chooses the name Theo, and thankfully Harvey and Roz are super supportive. Can't say the same for the basketball team though, because they're still bullying Theo. Like seriously, who high-fives someone after they bully another person? Okay, back to the witches again. Ms. Wardwell is totally shocked and hurt when Satan reveals to her that he has bigger plans for Sabrina that include Sabrina becoming the Herald of Hell. As we know, Ms. Wardwell is actually the demon Lilith, and she's mad crazy jealous that she spent thousands of years serving Satan, and now he's giving this huge important prophet gig to a 16-year-old. She challenges Satan to turn Sabrina towards the dark, and if he fails to seduce her, Lilith will be made the prophet. One way or another, the Dark Lord is guns to get what he wants. And when Sabrina fails to shoplift a pack of gum like he asks her to, he ups the consequences for her defiance. Theo accidentally breaks the legs of one of the bullies on the basketball team, Roz comes down with the chickenpox, Salem is dying, and Sabrina has the mark of the beast clawed into her back. Because Sabrina wouldn't use the 5-finger discount, he next instructs her to burn down Baxter High. Just before she's about to drop a match onto a whole puddle of gasoline, Satan stops her and tells her that her willingness to do whatever he asks is all he really wants. For now. Things are getting pretty crazy for Sabrina's friends too. For example, Roz and Harvey develop feelings for each other, and it's clear that they're gonna start officially dating. She even confesses to him that she had the cunning before they have their first kiss. I don't know about you, but if my ex started dating my best friend, there'd be hell to pay, and not in the cool church at night kind of way. Sabrina, on the other hand, isn't too upset. She's been paired with Nicholas Scratch for the Lupercalia Festival, and homeboy is hot with 2 T's. Lupercalia is a festival that celebrates all things lusty and provocative, and all of the teen witches are supposed to bang each other in the woods on the last night. Man, it must be so cool to be a teen witch. You can just magic a condom right onto your ween. But as bad luck would have it, Nick's wolf familiar Amalia finds Nick and Sabrina during Lupercalia. Amalia has always been incredibly jealous of Nick's girlfriends, and is definitely jelly of Sabrina. On the final night of Lupercalia, Amalia attacks Nick and Sabrina has to stab her to death. Over at Miss Wardwell's cottage, her boyfriend Adam has finally returned home from working with Frontiers Without Borders. Obviously, Miss Wardwell isn't Miss Wardwell anymore, and she's a ruthless centuries-old demon. But look at how cute they are! It's no wonder she totally falls in love with him. Zelda might not be in love, but she sure is getting married. My guess is that her withholding sex from him finally drove Blackwood crazy, so he proposes to her. Zelda admits that she's not in love with him and that she's just willing to marry him for the power she'll gain in the Church of Night, and as a faculty member at the Academy. When the anti-pope comes to town to marry the two of them, Blackwood plans to pitch his misogynistic manifesto to him. But Sabrina saw her father's ghost and found out that he had been flying to visit the anti-pope when his plane crashed, killing him and his wife. Sabrina has Nick dive into the depths of the Devil's Triangle to get the manifesto back for her, and then she barges into Father Blackwood's meeting and demands that Edward Spellman's life's work be considered as well. The anti-pope agrees to look over both manifestos, but shortly after being sent to bed with Blackwood's Judas Society watching over him, he's found dead. The only one around him are the Judas boys, including Ambrose, who took his boyfriend Lucas's spot after Lucas was found dead. So naturally, Father Blackwood starts slaughtering members of the Judas Society. Ambrose manages to teleport the hell out of there before he can be killed. Instead of staying gone, however, Ambrose returns to try to murder Father Blackwood for bewitching his familiar Leviathan and using the mouse to force Ambrose to kill the anti-pope. Unfortunately, his plan doesn't work and he's immediately thrown into the witch's cell. Sabrina and Nick glamour themselves to look like Mr. and Mrs. Spellman, but Blackwood sees through their disguises and expels both of them. He then whisks Zelda away for their honeymoon, promising to execute Ambrose when they return. With her recent expulsion, Sabrina returns to Baxter High to get back to normal with her mortal friends. When she gets back, she realizes how much she's truly missed. Roz is completely blind now, and she and Harvey are skeptical that Sabrina might have cursed her eyesight. Sabrina bounces again because apparently she's still causing too much pain for her friends just by being around them. Speaking of getting away from it all, things are getting really serious between Miss Wardwell and Adam. She reluctantly puts up with him at first, but his kindness makes Madame Satan fall in love with him. She's seriously considering running away with him to Tibet to start a new life without the Dark Lord involved. But of course, Satan doesn't want her falling in love with some idiot mortal, so he kills Adam, hooks him up for dinner, and forces Lilith to eat him. She vows to never let another person distract her from getting what she wants, and kills her familiar Stolas for spying on her for the Dark Lord. Freshly invigorated with the power of evil, Lilith goes on a killing spree to build a scarecrow around one of her ribs. The scarecrow is freaking terrifying and will loyally do her bidding. At the Academy, Ambrose is still locked in the witch's cell, but Hilda cleverly makes a roast chicken and encourages the Weird Sisters to throw the bones at him. When they do, Ambrose is able to make a skeleton key and escape. But because nothing in this show can ever just go right, he tries to run out of the Academy and ends up running smack into some witch hunters. At least everyone thinks they're witch hunters. It turns out that they're actually angels and are trying to save the souls of Satanists before brutally murdering them. The angels were responsible for Lucas's death, and they mortally wound Ambrose. While Hilda is trying to stop the bleeding, the angels take the rest of the witches they rounded up to a reconsecrated church to force them to repent. They kill a witch and a warlock before Sabrina busts in to fight them, and they end up shooting her with several arrows and placing a magic-blocking crown of thorns on her head. But instead of dying, Sabrina rises up like Dark Phoenix as Satan's herald. In an extremely metal maneuver, Sabrina casts hellfire upon the angels and resurrects the witch and warlock that they killed. Afterward, Harvey rushes Sabrina back to Aunt Hilda, who's still up to her elbows in Ambrose's blood. To everyone's surprise, Sabrina plucks the arrows from her torso and heals her cousin's wounds without even using an incantation. Safe to say, everyone's a little freaked out. And that's what Blackwood is banking on. He knows that if he can get Sabrina to show off her mad skills in front of the council, she'll be burned as a heretic by the church. Sabrina uses her newfound powers to restore Roz's eyesight and resurrect Leviathan so that he can testify that Father Blackwood is responsible for the murder of the anti-pope. She even stops Ambrose from being executed. Satan himself comes to Ambrose's would-be beheading and straight up demolishes Father Blackwood's ego by firing him from his interim anti-pope position. Yay, Satan! Sabrina is convinced that her new powers must stem from the fact that she's half witch, half mortal, and that's why her father wanted so badly for witches and humans to mate with each other. She plans to reveal her powers to her Baxter High friends as well as her friends from the academy. But before she can, Theo and Harvey rush into the party to stop her. They take Sabrina to a part of the Kinkle Mines that displays a prophecy of Sabrina becoming the Herald of Hell, and Sabrina realizes that the Dark Lord is responsible for her powers. Sabrina and Nick go to Ms. Wardwell to find out more about the prophecy. They learn that Sabrina is to kickstart the apocalypse after performing perversions of Jesus' miracles. She's already done most of them. Resurrection, healing the blind, performing an exorcism, visiting limbo, etc., so she knows she has to act fast. Ms. Wardwell tells her that the only way to stop Sabrina from becoming full evil is to remove her witch powers entirely. Sabrina goes home to get Ambrose to help her with a mandrake spell, but Ambrose falls asleep halfway through. When they wake up in the morning, it turns out that Sabrina made a doppelganger of herself that still has all her powers while she has none. Lilith sicks her scarecrow on Sabrina to kill her while she's weak, but Nick kills it just in time. Mandrake Sabrina is still out there, running around town, turning all of her friends into veggies. Luckily, Sabrina Prime takes a page out of Han Solo's book and shoots Mandrake Sabrina first during their duel to the death. This was the last perverted miracle that she needed to perform, but instead of sacrificing herself, she sacrificed her duplicate. Realizing that Ms. Wardwell was the one who coaxed her to perform those perverted miracles, she and Nick confront her and demand answers. Back at the academy, Father Blackwood is super pissed about not being the anti-pope, so he declares the Church of Night to be the Church of Judas going forward. He implements all the dumb patriarchal BS from his manifesto into the commandments of his new church. But even Prudence realizes that he's gone too far and breaks Aunt Zelda out of the school. Zelda begs Hilda to appear before the council to argue why his ideals are ass backwards and super upsetting, but of course, the all-warlock board laughs her out of the room. Except one guy. But then he tried to hit on her and she killed him. Alright demons, get ready, cause this season finale will blow your unholy socks right off your devil's claw. Ms. Wardwell finally reveals to Sabrina that she is in fact Lilith, and delivers her origin story. When Lucifer fell from heaven, she was his handmaiden and tended to his wounds. And I know what you're thinking. Oh cool, so she saves his life, so she's in charge now, right? Nope, that's not how the patriarchy works. She's continued to serve Lucifer for all these years because it's all she's ever known. Like most abusive boyfriends, Lucifer is too insecure and lame to give her an actual job, and she realizes that she's never gonna get what she wants if she sticks with him. While Satan goes down to put the smackdown on the Church of Judas and insist on all of them worshiping, following, and obeying Sabrina, Lilith races over to the Spellman house. She, Zelda, and Hilda all team up to stop the apocalypse. Lilith doesn't care who wins the coveted role of Satan's bride anymore. She just wants Satan to lose. Lilith brings Sabrina to Dorian Gray's bar, and Satan basically tells Sabrina that he's given her ultimate power and beauty, and she better heckin' reign by his side as Queen of Hell. But guess what? It turns out that he doesn't just want to marry her, she's also his daughter. Apparently, Edward and Diana had trouble conceiving a child, so Satan fathered Sabrina. Like, I know he's literally the devil, but trying to marry your daughter is the worst. What's even worse than that from a teen melodrama standpoint is that Nick Scratch has been working in cahoots with Satan the whole time. Oh please, like we didn't see that coming from the second we learned his name. But he can still redeem himself. Sabrina tasks him with trapping the Dark Lord in her dad's old Acheron configuration and promises that if he succeeds, she won't hate him forever. Unfortunately, Satan is like crazy powerful, so he busts right on out of there. The only thing left to do is trap Satan inside Nick's body and throw the whole thing into the gates of hell. But what's going on back at the academy? Father Blackwood did not take Satan's admonishments lightly. In fact, he lies to the congregation and tells them that they must take an unholy sacrament to pledge their allegiance to the Church of Judas. The wine he gives them turns out to be poison, so Prudence teleports her classmates to the Spellman house, where Hilda heals them. Afterwards, Prudence leaves to hunt down Blackwood, who still has her siblings Judas and Letitia with him. With Blackwood gone, Zelda declares herself High Priestess! Yes! Women can be High Priestesses too, suck it, Satan! Lilith is now the reigning Queen of Hell, and she promises to take extra good care of Nick in the fiery afterlife. Sabrina, of course, vows to get him back, and I 100% believe her, because Sabrina likes to do like a lot of dumb, risky things. As a consolation prize for losing her boyfriend's meat suit as a cage for the devil, the least Lilith can do is bring the real Miss Wardwell back to life, which she does. Gonna be weird when she finds out that her fiancé was eaten and that she's now the principal of an entire high school, but that's not my problem.
Now you know what must be done. Bestow upon the Dark Lord your comments about what the hell might happen next, and subscribe to NerdWire if you want to survive. Enjoy Sabrina Season 3, demons!